In today's episode, 3 ways to get paid or collaborate with hotels and Airbnbs, your lodging while you're traveling, and the pros and cons of each. I'm excited for today's podcast episode because this is a top question I get asked. And if I'm totally honest, if I could go back on the 4 years of travel creating that I've done and just talk about hotel content, to be honest, I think I would, because it's one of the, in my opinion, easier ways to find work as a travel creator, whether you are getting paid to stay at a place or you're just having your lodging comped. Think about it. As a traveler, it tends to be one of your biggest expenses. And so I'll be breaking that down today in this podcast episode, which is welcome. I'm Christine Lozada. This is another episode of Everyday Badassery. This is a mini series within this travel podcast in which I'm helping travel creators to be 1% more badass in how they create than they did yesterday. Make sure you check the show notes. There's a whole list of these episodes as well as a blog post that goes with each one. Let's dive straight in. This first way is my favorite way because it's how I first got started. Too often creators come into the game with a chip on their shoulder being like, I'm a creator, pay me, I have no audience. And I'm like, didn't you ever intern when you got out of college before you went into the work world? I saw the beginning of my creator career in the same way. I had an internship to do. And so I was traveling a lot and staying at hotels all the time and not working in any way with those hotels, not collaborating with them. I didn't have a contact there. I didn't even have an audience. I didn't have anything. But there's still a way that you can enjoy your hotel stay while making content. And it can look in a couple different ways. The first way is to sell back photos. You have a drone, it just makes it way, way too easy. You can just look on their website. If their drone shots are not immediately on the hotel website, then, everyone who has drone shots will show them right away. So if they're not there, it is a quick 5-second way to find out whether or not you flying your drone for 5 or 10 minutes can get them content that they will want. Everyone wants aerial shots. And so selling back photos that you've taken. For example, like I'm out there flying my drone, creating content for talking about the destination or vlogging about something. Why not turn your drone around and also have it look at the hotel and create a couple great photos and videos that they can use for their marketing materials? One of my favorite ways is to create a folder of those photos and videos. Reach out to them. I have different tactics, whether it's, I'm always going LinkedIn first before I'm trying to go Instagram DMs, but trying to find their marketing person for the hotel, write them a note. Hey, so-and-so, I stayed at XYZ hotel. It was awesome. Here's a drone shot that I took, and I give them one. I do. You're welcome to use for your marketing purposes on social media. Just tag me. And by the way, I shot an entire folder, and then normally creators will price them at, one photo is X and 3 photos is X plus a discount. And the whole folder is a bigger discount on the big X, for example. And so selling back photos and videos, if you're like, I don't have a drone, maybe you have a DSLR, maybe you have a mirrorless, maybe you can take great lifestyle photography of yourself and the people you're with or the person you're with while you're at this property. Or maybe you can take, even with your phone, really great, fun photos of you enjoying the property. Go post some of those on social media, tag in the hotel. So many times I have gotten tons of work from places as a result of just getting their attention on social media. And before I even have a chance of reaching out to them, being like, hey, I'm so-and-so, I love staying at the hotel, I'd love to connect with your marketing person. They've already reached out to me because they're seeing this content that I'm putting out there. And so the opportunity to, 1, sell your photos or videos back to them, or 2, get their attention to eventually get that paying for your photos and videos or a paid collab later. That's one of my favorite, sell back your photos and videos or get their attention with it. The pro of that is you own the whole creative process. You can take photos and videos in the style that you want, but the con is that if it's not exactly in the style that they're looking for and you're trying to sell them back, for example, you're going to have to do a little bit of your own research. Go look at their social channels. Go look at their marketing website. How can you shoot in their style? Don't forget, it's not about you in this instance. It's about them. But it leads to this second way under this umbrella of stay at the hotel without any kind of collab or without any kind of contact there, but still monetize it. And that's by creating the content that lives on your own channels. This for me is one of my favorites because hotels that I just paid out of pocket for always pay for themselves. And what I mean by that is now in this instance, you will need some level of audience or at least platforms and hitting keywords really well, because blog or vlog can be a great way to eventually lead to affiliate revenue. And if you're like, whoa, what are you talking about? Imagine you stay at a hotel and then you write a blog post about all the helpful tips around what to know about staying at that hotel, your honest review, or you do the video version of that. Yeah, you can make ad revenue, whether you have an ad service like Mediavine or She Media or something like that linked to your blog, so you're making ad revenue on that, or you have YouTube monetization and you're making ad revenue on the videos, the views to your video. But my favorite way is the best way, which is just straight up hotel affiliate revenue. And I love partnering with Stay 22. They're the sponsor of today's podcast. And what happens if you're like, oh my gosh, what does that all mean? It means that I am going onto Stay 22's platform, which is so easy. It's a place where I can grab links to that hotel, whether through booking.com or hotels.com or the partners that they work with. These are the places that people are booking the hotel anyway. And I'm simply providing that link, except now I get a revenue share. Plus I can easily look how many people have clicked on that, how many people have actually purchased that, what is my cut of that, and I can track it all within Stay 22's platform. Check them out. There's a link in the description of this show notes as well as on the blog post. They have been a fantastic way for me to monetize these hotel stays. So check them out. The pro of this scenario is my favorite, which is you own the creative control all the way through. It does require having an audience or having the know-how to be able to hit the YouTube or Google search engine in a way that your content is found. But it's one of my favorites because the second way to collaborate or work with a hotel and get paid for your stays or trade for your stays is by working directly with the hotel. And I'm going to break this down in a couple different ways, because there's the collab, in which is just a trade. Hey, come stay at our hotel for 3 nights and we just want you to post Instagram stories daily and a post on social media that's a collab post that lives on both of our channels. Cool. That's one way to do it. Obviously, it doesn't always look exactly that way, but I'm giving you an example from a couple weeks ago in which what it looked like for me. Or in this second way, you're being paid to stay at the hotel and make content. Now let's break down what that means. Working directly with the hotel means that you have a list of deliverables that they are expecting out of you. And they might have some brand guidelines. It needs to be shot in this style. It needs to look this way. There needs to be from this angle. There needs to be fill in the blank. This is a time in which you are releasing some of your own creative control, not all of it, but you're now having to work against their guidelines and their deliverables of what they're asking for. And this content can go out in 2 ways. The first way is that it could go to your channels, or it could go to both of your channels. Or I guess the third scenario, it could go to just their channels. So if it's just their channels, for example, this might be UCG content. What's UCG content? User generated content, which means, basically I translate that as the vertical video in which it's lightly edited on some kind of free and easy video platform like CapCut, for example. And it's given to them so that it's like, okay, it feels very real, like it's very real content. And it's used by them on their channels and they're tagging you in, for example, or they're not tagging you in sometimes. So that's one bucket. The other way of making content might be some kind of collaborative post in which it lives on both your channels. So a hotel property that I did a few months ago, for example, I did hotel reels that lived on my Instagram channel, collaborated with them. So it lived on both of our Instagram feeds and showed both of our names at the top, for example. Or in this last way, it's just going to your channels. And so you're advertising this hotel to your audience, to your channels, and making content about it that they may or may not reshare. The pro about this entire scenario is, well, you have a contact at the hotel and you're working with them and you are actively getting value, whether that means you're getting a free stay or it means you're getting paid to make this content. And if you're like, oh my gosh, Christine, like, how do I learn more about all of this? Make sure this is a 3-part series just about collabing with hotels. So make sure you check out the other 2 episodes in which we talk about some of the mistakes, because oftentimes creators will sign up to do a lot of deliverables that are, you may as well paid for that stay on your own. Like you are working so hard just to do a free stay or a collab. And so make sure the deliverables are fair. Make sure the relationship is fair. Make sure that you have the bandwidth to be able to create what you need to create in that time. I think one example that I shared in the other episode is a lot of times I'm brought on to do drone work. Of course, they want beautiful sunny days for that drone work. And so if I say yes to a collab that's like, yeah, I'm there anyway, free stay is cool. And they're like, all right, just 2 nights and we want drone shots. And I'm like, oh man, 2 nights. Why? What if during that entire time you have gray skies? Or there's some kind of rainstorm that comes through, or no one wants beautiful marketing shots on a gray, rainy day. And you might need time to capture that perfect sunrise or that perfect sunset. Oh shoot, today's sunset was nice, but there was no color. Oh my gosh, the next day in which I'm checking out, the sunset is this beautiful, it's going to be this beautiful red, for example, and it might be really, really pretty in your shots. And so giving yourself time to be able to make the deliverables that you need to be giving to the hotel, and also making sure it's the right amount of them given whatever the trade or the payout is. So I'm already exploring some of the cons, right? Like now you're under a list of deliverables, now they have certain expectations out of you. And so one of the things about working with a hotel, and I'm always doing a plan B and what is the just in case it doesn't work out. And so an example might be if it needs to go to your channels and they're expecting a certain level of views, a certain level of clicks, a certain level of fill in the blank, and for some reason it's not hitting with your audience or the algorithm isn't pushing you, what are some of the other things you can do, quote, just in case? And so I'm always trying to think of backup ideas. Hey, maybe I'm going to send some additional tweets on X, or maybe I'm going to create a Facebook post just in case, or maybe I'm going to fill in the blank with something. I am going to push that blog post I wrote, during the key times of the year that this hotel gets really popular. Fill in the blank. The thing about working with the hotel is, getting the relationship is not an easy one. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But maintaining that, of course, I have gone back and worked with hotels over the years. Gone back and stayed at the same places. Oh shoot, they just renovated and changed a bunch of things. Let's go back and do an update video for my audience about what it's like staying there now versus what it was like staying there 3 years ago. And so thinking about things long term and how you can be a good partner is always part of how I think about working directly with hotels. The third way to work with a hotel and get trade or paid as a travel creator is one of my favorite ways, which is just being there as part of something else. This was actually me last week, in which I was part of something else, staying at a place. And so let's kind of pull together all of the things that we've learned. So you might be on a press trip, If you're like, what's a press trip? A press trip is basically like, let's say, a tourism board or a destination marketing organization is putting together this larger, 2-day trip, 5-day trip, 2-week trip. Some of the press trips I've been on are long. It's a longer trip. And as a part of that, they're setting up all your tours, all your restaurants, all the places you're going to, and they're setting up where you're staying. In this scenario, you're not necessarily working directly with the hotel, but the pro of this situation is that you have this great relationship with someone else that you're working with, and all of the partners, the tour operators, the restaurants, including the hotels, all want to work with you. I always take advantage of these situations because they want to make themselves available to you. It's a great time for you to build the relationship. Hey, I would, and I genuinely do, I ask for tours. Can I have a tour of the hotel? I want a tour of this resort property. I want to make sure as I'm creating content, whether for the tourism board or for myself, maybe I'm making a separate blog post about this hotel property, resort property. Maybe I'm making a YouTube video. Give me rich information so that I can create rich content for my audience. And I can spend time with the people of that hotel, build the relationship, and maybe do something bigger with them at some later time. This extends to the tour companies, to the restaurants, etc. I'm connecting with all of these people afterwards, whether on LinkedIn, on social media, fill in the blank, making sure as I'm creating content, I'm tagging them in, making sure they're aware of all the content that I've created. And so going and staying at these properties as a result of being on a press trip, or another example that I was recently on was a creator trip. And in this creator retreat that I was on, Mount, who's a fantastic company that helps me to find hidden gems around the world. You can check them out in the description. They set up the creator retreat in which I didn't have to do anything. I just went and stayed at the property that they partnered with. Still, same rules apply. I'm making my own content. I'm treating this like an internship opportunity. If you're like, internship opportunity, Christine, you've been doing this for 4 years. The hustle never stops. Why wouldn't you want the opportunity to create content about this, whether to serve your audience, to gain affiliate revenue, like we talked about with Stay 22, or to show this property that you're a great creator, that this is the style of content that you can create, build out your media kit so you can show it to other places later. There's just so much opportunity to create content here. And so in this last scenario, being part of something else in which you are hosted at that property, the pro is you just have to show up and stay there. And I guess the pro is you have the opportunity. You can also see it as a con because it's work. But the other pro/con is that now you can go create your own content. Maybe you're going back to scenario one. You're selling back to them photos and videos that you've created outside of the deliverables that are required by your press trip or your creator trip or your creator retreat. And these are just opportunities for you to take advantage of. I've given you 3 ways to get paid by or get hosted by hotels and accommodations, whether you don't have any kind of relationship and you're just creating your own content because you're staying there on your own, or it's because you're working directly with that hotel or lodging, or it's because you're part of something else. You've been invited to go there because you're on a press trip or you're on some kind of creator trip, or fill in the blank. These are 3 ways, and I've broken them down for you. If it's been helpful, make sure you check out the blog post. There's more in there for you. And check out Stay 22. They're a great way to become an affiliate of these places. I mean, think about that. You don't even have to stay at that hotel to be able to become an affiliate of them. And one of my favorite things, here's a bonus tip, is if you've stayed at a hotel, and whether you've collabed with them or you stayed on your own or fill in the blank, one of the most helpful things as a traveler is roundup posts. Cool, that's a great review on that hotel, but what are the other 10 hotels that are in that area? How can you cover those and potentially make affiliate revenue off of them? That's one thing to consider, because one of the features in Stay 22 that I love is their maps. And so yeah, you can look at that hotel, but what is the embedded map within YouTube as a link or within your blog as a literal map to see all the other top properties in the area? give people more choice beyond what you're just talking about right there, and give yourself the ability to monetize it. I'm Christine Lozada. This is another episode of Everyday Badassery. Don't forget to miss the don't miss the entire playlist. Links are in the show notes for you, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.